Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Midday with Mark. Starting a little bit later today. Sorry about that. It's about 12:26 here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Glad to have you with me today. I'm back at home for Midday with Mark. Glad you're with me, letting people jump in, or if you're watching this pre-recorded, great. Sorry I'm a little later today than usual. I always say 12-ish because I got the kids at home and we are working on school projects. So today was their first day of school. So they are now doing online school. So that's keeping them busy and all of us busy. So welcome. Glad you're here. Enjoy. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. Um, Not feeling too well today. I don't know what, just feel a little different than usual. I don't know what that is, but I don't think I'm, sick with the virus or anything like that. I don't have any of those symptoms. So, glad you're here. If you've been with us, this is day 10. Day 10. This is Midday with Mark number 10. You can go back and watch the old ones if you want to, and check that out. But this is Midday with Mark number 10. And for many of these, we have done a Christmas tree moment, a Christmas moment, just to lift our spirits. So, you ready? You ready to take a big, deep breath of Christmas? All right, here we go. You ready? And there you go. Ah, feel the Christmas spirit. Everybody getting it? Everybody getting that Christmas spirit? Just soaking in deep, soaking in deep. All right, that's good. That's good stuff. Feels good. Well, now I'm back. All right, back at you. Hey, also, we always do, just to give people a chance to jump on, we also do the pop of the day. We do the pop of the day. So I collect pops. If you don't know what those are, they're little collectibles. So we do a pop of the day. Today's pop is Gandalf from the Lord of the Rings. Gandalf. So you can see a little bit of Gandalf there. That's Gandalf. Welcome. Hi, Gandalf. So thanks for joining us today. We always have a pop of the day. Today we're gonna go back to Mark chapter 5. If you watched day 9, you'll see that we were in Mark chapter 5. So if you have a Bible, you could go to Mark chapter 5 and check that out. Before we do that, let me give you a moment to find your Bible for people to get on. Let me give you a couple announcements. As you know, the stay at home was extended to the end of April here in Pittsburgh, and so that means for us as a church, obviously we're not meeting, but also means that on Easter we are not going to be doing drive-in church. We are just going to be doing online church for the foreseeable future. Also been working on our response to how we can help our community. We've got a couple initiatives in the works. So you're going to want to make sure you check out your email in the next day or today too. If you're not getting our emails, just go to our Facebook page, and there should be, if you scroll down on the River Franklin Park, there should be a link that says, do you want to receive our emails, just in the regular stories. Make sure you're signed up for that. And then also Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on Zoom, you'll see the number to click into that. We have an all-church gathering. We'll be updating you on where we're at with those initiatives. So we have a couple of things we're going to do over the coming weeks to help out our community. So would love to have you be a part of that. All right, so let's get into our study for today. Our study for today, let me fix this just a little bit. There we go. Our study for today goes back to Mark chapter 5. Yesterday, we looked at the woman who had the bleeding. This story precedes that in Mark's telling of the story. So Jesus comes across the lake, and he comes across the lake to an area of the Gerasenes. You'll see this in chapter 5, and here's where we go. Mark chapter 5, it says, they went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. Okay? So that actually I've been there. Okay, so I've actually been there. It's on the other side. This is on the Gentile side of the lake. Okay, this is where the Gentiles would have lived, not the Jewish people. So you already could see Jesus is going to a place that not many Jews go. Okay, so he's going across the lake in chapter 5, verse 1. And when they land there, when Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. All right. So this story is called The Man Who is Demon Possessed. Okay. Honestly, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you end up demon possessed. You eat some bad cheese. I don't know. I mean, but he is demon possessed. That's what it tells us. Okay. It says an impure spirit. Okay. So this guy's had it pretty rough. He is worse than the coronavirus. Okay. He's got some bad stuff. All right. So he came from the tombs to meet him. Okay. Well, that's kind of odd, right? We found out this man has been living in the tombs. So this man lived in the tombs and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. Later in the story, we'll see that he was most likely probably naked too. All right, so get this picture. I know you don't want that mental picture in your head, but get this picture. This guy's living in the tombs, naked, chained up, breaking the chains, crazy, like barking at the moon and cutting himself with stones. It's crazy, isn't it? When I used to teach this to my high school kids when I was a youth pastor, I would stop here and I go, I was like, what does this story have to do with us? It's just kind of crazy. Like this, how does this relate to us? Well, I had teenagers who were cutting themselves. I have people who, throughout 30 years of ministry, have done all kinds of things to harm themselves. They surround themselves with death and things that are killing them. And so I would look at those teenagers and say, is this any different? I mean, is this really that different? I mean, we've surrounded ourselves with death often as a culture. And people have called our culture at times a culture of death. And so when you look at this, it might seem way out there and how does this story relate to me at all? But when you look at it, it really speaks into our lives. It speaks into our state of mind. It speaks into some of the impure spirits that we've allowed our lives to be around. Verse 6. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want from me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." And then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And by the way, as we go through this, notice that evil recognizes who Jesus is. Evil recognizes who is in control and who is the Son of God, the Son of Man. And so he says to him, don't do anything to us. Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." By the way, there's some things here historically that happen in this region. When the Roman army came in, the legions of Roman army came in, this is one of the first areas to suffer the worst. And so this area suffered brutal trauma. And so some people believe that this person's mindset, his possession, however that happens, that was part of that trauma. There's this trauma in this area, what the Romans did to this area when they came in. And so these legions of demons, right? The legion of demon. But here's the cool thing. If that area suffered some of the worst and it suffered first, well, it's also getting the first taste of mercy, the first taste of grace, the first taste of the one who can heal our trauma, the one who can meet us in the midst of our trauma. And it says, "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send him out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." By the way, you're going to see a bunch of innocent pigs just get it bad here in a moment. All right. And so it said, and so he said, he gave them permission, the demons, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. This is the first example of pulled pork. You get it? It's a bad dad joke. Pulled pork. So can you imagine 2,000 pigs? Woo! Off the cliff, into the lake, right into the lake, rushed down the steep bank into the lake, and they were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and the countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. Now, this is important. So this happens, this crazy thing happens, people start talking, they start telling people about it, then people come to see what had happened, and this is what they see when they get there. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legions of demons sitting there, dressed. That's good. That's why I say he was probably naked, because they say he's dressed. They pull that out. He was dressed and in his right mind. Oh, this is so good. So they see him, and when you're at the feet of Jesus, get this, when you're at the feet of Jesus, you are sitting, you are at peace, right? He's no longer running. He's no longer busting things apart. He's no longer living in tombs. He's sitting at the feet of Jesus. He's no longer in a culture of death. He's in a culture of life. He's at the one who is life. He's at the feet of the one who's life. He's sitting there at peace, dressed, clothed. All right. That's physically clothed. But when we sit at the feet of Jesus, we're clothed by his grace, his righteousness, his goodness. And so when we're near him, we are clothed with those things. We don't have to be afraid. We can have hope and faith and trust when we're at the feet of Jesus. And so we know that he's with us. We are clothed in all of his goodness, and we are in our right mind. I love those words, in our right mind. It's a good thing these days to keep your head about you, to be in your right mind. To be in your right mind, not be driven by fear in these moments in our culture. Are you afraid financially, physically, spiritually? However, like I said at the beginning, I don't feel very good today. And when that some fear started to come up, and I just found out this morning that a guy who was a chaplain at Geneva College years back, he died of the coronavirus yesterday. So when those fear starts to well up, I need to go back to the feet of Jesus. I need to be in my right mind. I need to trust God. I need to not be afraid. I need to trust him. It says he was in his right mind and they were afraid. Notice this. When the people see the change in this man, they don't celebrate. They're afraid. That's an interesting response, isn't it? They're afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. Now notice that. There's a stark contrast here. There's the ex-demon-possessed man who is sitting at the feet of Jesus. He wants to be near Jesus. There's these other people, which I don't know why. Jesus might be an economic threat. He might be a threat to the status quo. They might just be freaked out by it. I don't know. But they literally ask him to leave. Stark contrast, isn't it? When people encounter Jesus, some come and fall at his feet, and others are like, would you please go? You're just stirring things up. Would you please leave? And maybe you've had that experience in your life. I mean, I know there's times in my life where I've felt like saying to Jesus, could you just please leave right now? Like, you're messing everything up. You're messing up the way I want to do this. You're messing up my plans. And I hope your response in these times in your life right now to Jesus are sitting at his feet sitting at his feet, want to be as close to him as possible. But notice what happens next. It says, as Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon possessed begged to go with him. So there's people that are saying, go away. And then there's the ex-demon possessed guy who's like, can I go with you? Can I be one of your disciples? Can I follow you? Can I be with these guys? That's where I want to be. And he says, no. He said, go home. He said, Jesus did not let him. He said, go home. Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he had mercy on you. Jesus doesn't just let us sit at his feet. He sends us out and he says, go and tell your people. Go and tell your people how good the Lord has been to you. Is it comfortable for you to tell people how good the Lord has been to you? How good his mercy has been to you? Are you comfortable doing that? Are you comfortable with just telling your story? You don't have to be a theologian. You don't have to be a preacher. Please don't be a preacher. But just simply to tell people how good the Lord has been to you. That's your testimony. The word of your testimony. Tell them. Go back to your people. And so it says, so the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis. Decapolis means 10 cities. There were 10 cities. I've actually been in one of them. It's pretty cool. How much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. And so this guy's life had impact beyond that moment. He had impact because he went and told others what Jesus had done for him. It's a great story. In this time, in these days, I wonder, are we sitting at the feet of Jesus in our right mind? He will put us in our right mind. He will give us the truth. He is the truth. He is the life. Are we sitting at the feet of life, or are we living in a culture of death and consumed with death? That's my challenge to you today. I also want to share with you, before we go, I want to share with you a little passage from this book that we've been looking at a little bit. We've been looking at a couple books called Following Jesus by Henry Nouwen. You should pick it up on Amazon. One of my favorite books. But he talks about fear. And I'm sure this demon-possessed guy, his life was filled with a lot of fear at times. But this is what Nouwen writes about fear. He says this: fear makes us think in terms of scarcity. There's a lot of people afraid right now, and what they're going to do is they're going to pull in when they're afraid. And this is what he says: when we are concerned that there isn't enough, our first response is to start hoarding. We start hoarding the bread, the fish, hoarding honor, hoarding affection, hoarding knowledge, hoarding ideas. When we're afraid, we think there's scarcity. We got to get ours and make sure we have everything we need. He says the more surplus we have, the more we're going to build walls around what we have hoarded. The higher the walls get, the more fear we have of the enemies we imagine outside the walls. But following Jesus is first of all an invitation to follow the Lord of abundance. See, we follow the Lord of abundance. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to live with a scarcity mentality, but we follow the Lord of abundance. This is what Nouwen says: I hope you see what I'm saying. Fear is precisely what makes us hold on to our position and our possessions. It makes us hold on to what we have because we are so afraid we will lose what we need. Love is overcoming fear. Love is letting go and trusting that in the letting go, life will multiply. Life will become more. And then he closes this. Well, he doesn't close it, but I'm going to close with this section. Listen to this. Like this man went out of his life after he was rescued by God. He didn't live in fear. He lived in abundance. He lived to tell others. He lived to give to others. Listen to what Nouwen says here. What we hold on to always diminishes. What we hold on to always diminishes. What we give away always multiplies. Did you get that? What we hold on to always diminishes. What we give away always multiplies. This man went out into the Decapolis and he gave his testimony, and it multiplied amongst people. Whatever you're called to give, whatever you're called to go to and do, whatever you give of yourself, it will always multiply. But if you hold everything to yourself, it will always diminish. Now it says this is the great illogic. It's the great paradox. It's the great thing about how life works, that when we give, we get back so much more. When we give, it multiplies. And when we hold on and hoard stuff, it just diminishes. That's my word for you today. That's Nowin's word for you today. That's the man on the lake, on the lake in the area of the Gerasenes. And so that is the story of life. When we follow Jesus, he puts us in our right mind. He sends us out to give to those who are in need, and people will be amazed. Love you guys. Praying for you. Hang in there. We got a month to go, and we'll see what happens from there. But hang in there. Join me tomorrow for another Midday Mark, number 11. I'll see you then. Bye-bye. Take care.